Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 334. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Got you over the phones today.
Yeah.
Here's a little thing that we do. So when we record the show, we actually do the last part first. We do the new releases first. So you'll notice the quality of Kevin's audio changes drastically during that segment. It's because his internet was not cooperating.
Never does.
And so we had to switch to the phones.
Never does.
Anyway, this week on the show, we'll be reviewing Britt, Poulton, and Dan Madison Savage's Them That Follow. We'll also be talking about someone watching on the watch list and going over this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to please consider reviewing us on iTunes if you get a chance. That would be amazing. Couple housekeeping things. New Ryan Watches a Movie will be dropping on Thursday, and there is a new Saved by the 90s out. If you haven't listened to that, it's on a separate feed. Just search for Saved by the 90s. You'll find it. We talk about spoof movies. We review 4 spoof movies that came out in July. So we talk about Hot Shots, we talk about Robin Hood Men in Tights, we talk about Jane Austen's Mafia, and we talk about basketball. Fun episode. However, we didn't have a lot to talk about.
What? They're spoofs.
Yeah, but
Spoofs.
like audibly describing a spoof movie is actually harder than you might think, because it's a spoof movie. So there's 37,000 jokes in there, and a lot of them are visual gags, and it's just, I don't know, it was hard to talk about. So mainly we talked a lot about the sort of downfall of the spoof movie and why we don't really see spoof movies so much anymore.
No, that's a bummer.
All right, with that, I think we can dive into our review. We're talking about Them That Follow. I have a synopsis here. Set deep in the wilds of Appalachia, where believers handle death-dealing snakes to prove themselves before God, Them That Follow tells the story of a pastor's daughter who holds a secret that threatens to tear her community apart.
Ooh. Goodness.
Got some notable people in this. Caitlin Dever, Walton Goggins, both of them were in Justified together. Jim Gaffigan's in there, and Oscar winner Olivia Colman's in there. The Jim Gaffigan casting is one that was a surprise.
It works, though. Works perfectly.
Yeah, it works.
I believed it wholesale right off the bat.
I was like, I did too.
I could see Jim Gaffigan handling snakes.
Kevin, what did you think of Them That Follow?
It's decent enough. For me, it wasn't really remarkable in any way whatsoever. And it was also kind of interesting in the sense that you feel the length. It's an hour and a half long. I'm not saying that it feels like way too long or anything, but it feels like a substantial movie, hour and a half. But then when you sit and think about it afterwards and think about, what actually happened in said movie, I don't know how it was an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
Because nothing happened. It's a very, very basic story. And I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page with you here. I thought it was fine. There isn't a lot of substance. I don't feel like they dive too deeply into the whole Pentecostal snake handling thing. They don't really dive into the actual practice itself too much. They more so look at the people who subscribe to this practice, and a lot of it feels very surface level to me, although I do find the subject matter to be fascinating. So in that, I thought it was entertaining. I thought the performances were solid across the board, but at the same time, it's like one of these movies that I saw this almost a week ago at this point, and it's already fading. It's already fading from my memory.
Yeah, I mean, it faded like a couple of hours after watching it, in the sense that there's, like I said, there's not There's nothing really remarkable about it. There's nothing memorable about it outside of, snakes. But, and I would say that that's the one thing that I did, for the most part, appreciate with this movie is they don't make these people like absolute caricatures of, Pentecostal snake handlers. They're just, they're just presented as people that just happen to deal with serpents. They say take up serpents. You can take up any serpent. Like, it doesn't specify rattlesnakes. Like, they could just be garden snakes. Just fondle some garden snakes and just move on with your life and stop killing yourselves.
Yeah.
Why's it gotta be rattlers?
I think there's probably a reason behind that. Like the element of danger or something. Like if you're worthy, then it won't bite you. And if it does bite you and you survive, then that is representative of like overcoming, whatever.
The strength of your faith.
Yeah.
But it's just a rattler. Rattler doesn't know. It's just like, put me down. Why are you touching me?
Yeah, there was some good snake scenes in this. I think they were all real. Like, I don't recall seeing any like CG being used.
No, and I do got to say that it feels like they failed on that level though, because even with the small number of snake scenes, right, that are present in this movie, I never had this like tension, like, oh Jesus, all these snakes. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, snake, and that obviously the setup of this, someone's going to get bit by a snake. That's going to be the point in the movie, and you know exactly when it's going to happen. Like as soon as it's kind of like set up, you're like, well, who's getting bitten by the snake.
Yeah.
So it never really seemed like they capitalized on that as they, draw out tension with the whole snake handling thing. It just kind of felt predetermined.
Yeah, there were like really two snake handling moments that I think that were intended to be very tension filled, and during one of them, right off the bat that this person is going to get bit. Like it's just pretty much telegraphed.
Yeah,
like this person's done.
Which is there's a little bit of that too throughout the movie that I thought kind of undercut everything, because there's a scene or a sequence not too long after that where said person is laying in bed and the shot beforehand is an axe, and then the immediate next shot is him laying in bed with the arm, and you're just like, well, I know what they're doing now.
That's gonna happen.
And they kind of draw that out, and it's like, you already told us. Like, there's no need for this. Like, did you really have to show the axe?
Getting back to the performances, again, I thought everybody did a really great job. Walton Goggins plays the father of the main character, and he's like the pastor of this church. He's great. I think that was a perfect casting choice.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't think you can get anyone better for that.
And Olivia Colman plays just one of the church members, but she also owns like a gas station, and she's really great in it too. I mean, obviously, I would always prefer her to be in a comedic role, but she has proven time and again that she can handle anything, any role that's given to her, and so she's pretty great in it. Caitlin Dever is she doesn't have much to do in this.
No,
she's not the main. Yeah, she's not the main character. The main character is
Alice Englert.
And there's this sort of love story thing that's happening in it too that feels, even though it's central to the plot, it feels somewhat half-baked to me. Like, I never even got... Like, I wasn't even sure what the status of Mara and Augie's relationship was, played by Thomas Mann.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. At first, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. It just seems like they've known each other for a long time. They're kind of sweet on each other. And then it's just like not a thing anymore. And then it's a very serious thing. And then, they add the whole Garrett angle in there, to make this a triangle. Yeah, it just feels wholly undeveloped. But it's like the unfortunate thing is it's like the main crux of the like it's the entire movie, really.
Right. Exactly. And this is something that they don't. I feel like they don't really explore this too deeply either. You mentioned the Garrett character. He's played by Louis Pullman, and like was this like an arranged marriage or like what's happening here with this where they announced that these two are getting married, but it's like does she like him? Was this something that the father? Yeah, I get that sense, but it's like, why is this happening? Was it an arranged marriage? Did Walton Goggins?
No, I think it was
this up. I mean,
I think it's mostly just to cover up the situation that she's in. You know what I mean? In terms of she discovers something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I don't think she discovers that until after they get engaged, though.
Yeah.
Maybe,
but it's very bizarre.
Yeah, and Augie is not in the church. He left the church.
He's one person of the entirety of that mountain who's not in the church. And there's some developments just felt out of place to me. Like Mara's character felt a bit off, considering that, you know, she was raised in this church. Her father is the pastor. And for the majority of the time, she seems to be fully engaged with it. And, you know, the whole faith angle, everything. And then out of nowhere, she just becomes this very defiant person. And then Garrett's character he seems kind of nebbish. And then all of a sudden, he's like this incredible abuser. It's just like, what?
Yeah, so that was an interesting turn. So, like, what they do there is there's like one scene where Walton Goggins is like, you know, you need to be the man or whatever. And I guess he's like, he takes that as, oh, I should be like awful. I should be an awful human being to my fiance.
Yeah.
And his character just takes a complete 180.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he becomes this like monster. And you're just like,
wash my feet. Wash my feet.
It's like, what?
Had a long day. Wash my feet.
Oh,
yeah, it's kind of bizarre. Some of the choices. The more we deconstruct this movie, the less I feel about it.
Well, and also even when you said in the synopsis that, you know, it would like tear this community apart, I never got the sense that like her and Augie's relationship would somehow tear this community apart.
No, I mean, it seemed, because you got to remember, like you said, everybody in this little town is part of this church. So you got a lot of people, and this seems like it's a very centralized, like focused conflict that's occurring between a few people. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily tear the community apart, especially when at the beginning of the movie, and like if you think that the bite is going to have something to do with it, I don't think so, because at the beginning they mention like a boy who gets bit or something, and they're just like, oh, it happens, you know. Like, and I think if I remember correctly, they said that the boy was dying, like he died or was about to die.
Yeah, they usually do.
Yeah, because they don't. It's
they
untreated.
They try and treat it with the power of prayer, which rattlesnake venom does not give a shit about prayer or faith.
No, it just courses through your body. It just ravages your insides.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, fairly disappointing, this one.
Yeah, unfortunately.
A little bit let down. There's some strong elements to it. I mean, it looked pretty good. Nothing amazing, but there's some decent cinematography in there. Any final thoughts? Them that follow?
No. Ask me, and you know, at the end of the year, if I remember this movie, and I have a feeling that I won't.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what are you gonna give it out of 10?
I give it like a 4.5, 5.
Yeah, I'm sitting at around a 4 on this one. I'm tempted to give it a bump just for the performances. So maybe I would give it a 4.5. That's Them That Follow. That is playing in select cities right now. Let's move on and talk about someone we've been watching. You're going to be surprised to hear this, Kevin, but the Fantasia Festival has concluded.
No, it hasn't.
It is.
No, I just read that they extended it 3 months.
It is. They've. Oh my God, I don't even know what I do. I just pass out. There's a couple other ones that I can mention that I saw at the festival that have since screened. One is called Tone Deaf. This is directed by Richard Bates Jr. He's the guy who did Excision and Suburban Gothic, two movies that I thought were okay but flawed. Excision being the stronger of the two, but I thought that they were both pretty solid. He's an interesting director. He has some really interesting ideas that he brings to the screen. He does a lot of kind of fantasy, nightmare scenes that are always really, really well shot and kind of visually trippy. And he does that with this movie too. So Tone Deaf stars Amanda Crew and Robert Patrick. And Amanda Crew plays this millennial who she ends her relationship with her boyfriend, and then she also gets fired from her job, and she is just stressed out with life, and her friends are like, you need to just get away, get out of the city for the weekend or whatever. So she rents this Airbnb, and it's like this giant house. It's huge. And I don't know why she decides to rent this enormous house just for herself, but at any rate, she does. And it's owned by Robert Patrick. Now, Robert Patrick is this, I would say he'd be like a MAGA hat kind of guy.
Okay.
And he just lost his wife. His wife committed suicide, and he rents the house, and he's getting older, and it's unclear because he says it in the movie, but it's unclear if he's like just lying. But he says he has dementia, and his life is coming to an end, and he's done everything. He's seen everything, but one thing he hasn't done is killed another human being. So he wants to kill somebody, and he decides he's going to kill Amanda Crew. And it's really this sort of really overt allegory for the growing cultural divide in our country, where you have Amanda Crew as this sort of super liberal, very PC person, and then you have Robert Patrick, who's this like older boomer who thinks that the younger generation is destroying our country and blah blah blah. And
gotcha.
It doesn't really work in this scenario. It seems like there's not a lot that Richard Bates has to say other than just like, hey, like the conflicts that we're having as a society, like let's just put that on the screen. It's not, doesn't really propose a solution or anything like that. And I would say that the Robert Patrick character is obviously the villain of the story, but he kind of pokes fun at the millennial generation as well. It's all right. I'd say it's going to be on VOD very soon. I think it's fine for like a VOD rental, or maybe wait till Netflix or Shudder gets it.
Yeah.
The kind of trippy hallucinations come from Robert Patrick in this one, and when he has these like delusions, he's like always in this completely white room, and he's dressed in a red suit, and all the objects and people in the room are completely blue.
Yeah.
You get it? So it's like a whole red versus blue thing.
I think I'm piecing it together.
Yeah.
like a political thing, maybe. Okay, all right, I gotcha.
It looked cool, but it was
Didn't want to know.
yeah, yeah.
I got to see Julia Hart's Fast Color from earlier this year. So this is kind of in the news recently because apparently it just got picked up. Amazon is going to be, I guess, turning this into like a series produced by Viola Davis. So kind of worked out timing-wise. Get to see, all right, see this movie. If I like it, check out the series maybe. This I actually did enjoy. It felt kind of similar, somewhat in the same vein of Midnight Special, where it's this not really a superhero movie, but yet people have, some abilities, and it's just, it's all kind of just rooted in realism, just with, little bits of their superhuman abilities that they have. And here this is a family that it's kind of passed down on the female side throughout the family, and they kind of keep track of everything in this big tome, everything that they can do abilities wise. And of course, some government people are trying to look for them, track them down, do tests on them. But it also takes place in this, I can't remember exactly like how long they haven't had water, but they're very, very low on water. Like it hasn't rained for like years. Like water costs an exorbitant amount of money. And so there's that element to it as well. But the thing that got me with this is the writing. Like, it's not necessarily an origin story, but it kind of is just a little bit, because you have three generations of people with these superhuman abilities, which what they can do is like essentially take things apart, which is just like any object, kind of break it down into particles and then put it back together with their mind. So you have the three generation thing. So you kind of have this origin story, but you also have the main character of Ruth, which is played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw. Like she's the lead, and she's kind of like on the run because she was at one point picked up and they were running tests on her, but you don't really see any of that. You're kind of introduced to her as her breaking out and returning to her family. So you kind of have that as an avenue to explore. You have the way that it ends up ending, which is a perfect drop-off point because you can go in numerous different avenues with that. So it really makes a lot of sense that they're going to develop this into a series, because it feels like there's a ton of things that they can do with it, like a lot of history there with this whole storyline. So I'll be interested to see how this series plays out.
Cool. Might have to give this a look. Last week when you said it, we talked about this, I think it was last week, and I said that I heard bad things about it. I got this mixed up with another movie that has, I can't find the movie, but it has a similar looking poster. It was a movie that came out earlier this year, and it was like I think it was like a love story, and it was in theaters for just a very short amount of time, and I can't remember the name of it, but at any rate, yeah, I got it mixed up.
I feel like there was a movie that came out at the same time as Fast Color that I used to get it confused with.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it is.
I saw one called Homewrecker. This is directed by Zach Gain, and this is kind of I don't know how to describe this movie. It's not great. Well, I'll start with that, and it's basically about this young woman who meets this older woman in her yoga class, and she kind of the older woman sort of attaches herself to the younger woman, and it like shows a very strange interest to her, and she ends up going over to this woman's house, and the woman turns out to be sort of crazy and locks her up and sort of kidnaps her, and I guess she's planning on killing her, although I'm not sure she thought that far ahead. It stars Alex Esso, who was in Starry Eyes, and the older woman named Linda is played by Precious Chong, she's very bad in this, and like she does a good job of acting like a crazy person, but at the same time, her acting is not very, very good. There's these fight scenes that occur between the two of them where they're like kind of fighting and wrestling, and the fight scenes are so bad. It's baffling how they looked at this and were like, yeah, this works, because it's just it's frustrating, the fights. And I don't know, it just didn't. There were some good ideas at play, there was some fun twists, but yeah, it just didn't really work. Again, that's called Homewrecker. I do not have a review for this up. This is there's only 2 Fantasia movies that I didn't review that I saw out of like 20, and this was one of them.
Yeah, it makes sense, because it seems like you're frustrated to the point of being speechless.
Yeah, I just don't have a lot to say about it. It was just not very good.
Yeah, those are fun to write about. It's always great when you have the opportunity to just be like, you know what, not going to write about it, because I wrote 25 other ones.
Yeah, I mean, with this one, it was like I didn't like hate it. I didn't hate it, so it wasn't like I wanted to write a review that just ripped it apart or anything. Because, like I said, there were some good ideas in it, but it was just like I didn't want to have to. After I was done with it, I just wanted to be like, okay, I've seen it, I'm done with it, I'm putting it away.
Well, the only other thing I saw, which I think came out earlier this year, or maybe it came out last year. I can't remember. The Hate U Give. Is that a last year movie or this year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year. All right. Getting caught up over here. So this is directed by George Tillman Jr. Overall, this is pretty good. It feels extremely polished in the sense that you can tell that this was made for what I would call quote-unquote general audiences, to try and appeal to everyone, to try and bring in as big as an audience as possible. So with that in mind, it feels a little bit neutered in its, in its pointedness. We're dealing with race relations and everything. And it feels like there could have been a little bit more to it. I mean, there's still a great deal in there, but again, it feels like a studio version of something that could be far more radical. But I think overall, for the most part, it works. It accomplishes what it sets out to do, and it has a great performance. This movie is completely anchored by Amanda Stenberg, who plays Star, the main character, and I think she really makes it work. Her performance really makes it work, and it is what it is. I was kind of surprised that it was as good as it was, because I had a feeling, that this could have really went south.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of been, a bit ridiculous, but overall, gotta say it was pretty good.
That's The Hate U Give, Thug.
Yes, that's a weird thing that they kind of like. And now, granted, I haven't read the book that this is based on, but the one character that ends up getting shot by the police, he talks about thug life, Tupac's whole philosophy, and they kind of like bring it up numerous times throughout the movie, and it always just feels kind of weird, like really inorganic, the way in which they bring it up. So it kind of has that like after school special feel, like they're kind of like shoehorning things in, which kind of takes away from it. That's what it kind of has that feel to it, like they're trying just a bit too hard.
All right. The final one that I'll mention is called The Divine Fury. This was added as like a secret screening at Fantasia. It was the final movie that they screened. It's directed by Kim Joo-hwan. This is a South Korean action horror movie which involves an MMA fighter who teams up with a priest in order to carry out a series of exorcisms. It turns out that the city is being plagued with these possessions. Like all of a sudden, just everybody's getting possessed, and this MMA fighter. It turns out that he like developed stigmata in his hand, and it turns out that he can exorcise demons out of people very easily with his crazy stigmata hand.
Oh boy.
And so the setup for this sounds awesome, right? Like action horror movie, MMA fighter, priest taking down demons. It sounds incredible. In practice, however, it's not. It's actually very subdued. It's very slow. It takes a really long time to get moving. And this is over 2 hours long. It's like 2 hours and 9 minutes long. So the setup is way too slow. And while there are some fun and exciting moments, overall it doesn't really have any kind of, it doesn't really pack a punch, so to speak. The end is kind of cool. Like he essentially powers up his hand, and the fist, his hand goes from just having stigmata to like lighting on fire, and it's like this like white flame that he can make come out of his hand, and that's awesome, especially when he's like punching people with it. And the effects work is actually really solid in this. It looks quite good, but at the end of the day, there's just not enough. There's not enough action. There's not. You go into a movie like this for some crazy fun action, and there's hardly any in there.
It sounds ridiculous. Like it sounds like, he has stigmata hand, which he uses to beat people senseless. Like the power of Christ compels you. Levels that hand up to the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like this would be incredible.
Yeah, he doesn't level it up to the very end for the final boss fight.
Yes.
And I mean, I feel like a movie like this has potential. Like if they made a sequel where it's just the two of them going around, rapid fire exercising demons all over the place, like that would be more fun. But as it is, like he's reluctant to help, and he's sort of a tortured person in and of himself. Like he sort of lost his faith after his father died. It turns out that, well, it might be a spoiler. It happens near the beginning, but I won't divulge how he dies. But anyway, his dad's a cop and dies on the job, and so like a lot of the movie is about him sort of reestablishing his faith, and it doesn't really. Maybe my expectations were off, and that's why I didn't come out of this like really loving it. But there's some really creepy kind of the creature effects done. So like it turns out that he's being haunted by demons, and there's like one scene where you see all the demons that are haunting him, and there's like 24 of them that just surround him all the time. And it's a really crazy looking scene. And there's also this one sort of demon that has like tons of human arms growing out of it, and that's a really creepy looking demon. And other than that, it's okay, but it just wasn't what I expected, and it left me feeling a little disappointed.
It sounds like it has the potential to be special. Like what I'm hearing sounds special.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a lot of action at all. It's set up to be like this really fun action horror movie, but there's very few action scenes, and he doesn't really punch people with his stigmata hand. He just kind of like places his palm on their forehead, and it's just their heads light on fire.
Ooh.
And he calls it a day.
It's an easy job, though.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. It's
that's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's it. That's all I have. All right, let's take a look at what we have in theaters this week. Got a couple notable ones. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is the big one for me, at least. I'm pretty excited for this.
There you go.
Do you have any interest in this?
I do.
Nice. Maybe we can get you out to the theater this weekend.
Oh, boy. Oh, goodness. We'll see.
We also have The Kitchen coming out.
The Kitchen, huh?
Yeah, yeah. This is the one with Melissa McCarthy and Tiffany Haddish and Elizabeth Moss, where they play like mob wives who their husbands end up in prison and they take over the business.
Okay.
It takes place in the 70s in Hell's Kitchen.
Gotcha.
I'm into it. It's based on a comic book series, a Vertigo series.
Interesting.
Which I haven't read, but usually Vertigo stuff is pretty solid.
There you go.
Yep. We also have Dora and the Lost City of Gold. This is the live action Dora the Explorer movie.
Of course. Naturally.
Every time I see this, it stars, it features Eugenio Derbez, and I can only see him as in that one movie he's in where he's like How to Be a Latin Lover. That's all I can see him in, and then to see him in a kids movie feels weird to me. I don't
Love
know.
it. Love it.
Either way, this is certainly not a movie for me.
No.
Another movie that's not necessarily for me is The Art of Racing in the Rain. This is another one of these dog movies.
Ooh.
They just been churning out these. Just come out with a good dog movie, people. I mean, I'd say John Wick 3 is the best dog movie of the year. See it and you'll agree with me. We also have The Peanut Butter Falcon. This is the one with Shia LaBeouf, who he's like a drifter or something, and he befriends this guy with Down syndrome, and they go on some kind of adventure, or they go to like find like a wrestling school.
I was really hoping that you would say he befriends a falcon.
No, the name comes from the guy's wrestling name. Like that's what he wants his wrestling name to be or something like that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. This one doesn't really appeal to me. Let's see. We also have Dying to Survive. This is in limited release. Brian Banks. I keep getting emails about this. This movie does not appeal to me at all, but it's like a sports movie. All-American high school football star committed to USC who finds his life upended when he's wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't commit. After the Wedding, we got One Child Nation. We got Necrotronic. And that looks like it's it for theaters. VOD this week. We got, on the 6th, we got 2 hours, which is like 2:hours.
Okay.
Teenage slacker Tim Edge gets more than he bargained for when he convinces his 2 best friends to skip a school trip.
Oh, man.
Tim discovers he only has 2 hours to live. So it's like he tries to do a bucket list, and it's just it's exhausting for me to just even describe this movie any further.
Not having it.
No.
Moving on.
Consequences. 17-year-old Andre is admitted to a correctional facility where he meets Zelchko, who begins to exploit him in return for keeping his sexuality a secret.
Oh, okay.
There you go. The Night Sitter. This is a horror movie from the creator of Final Destination.
Hey.
Don't read this bedtime story aloud.
Oh, no.
Don't do it. And then on the 9th, we have Corporate Animals. This is with Demi Moore and Ed Helms.
Wow. That's a throwback.
We have Necrotronic, and that looks like that's about it. If you're wondering, Necrotronic looks... You got to see that poster. Holy cow.
Oh.
Looks very rough.
How we spell Nick?
And
There we go. Oh, it was the K.
yeah,
I was wondering if they're going the K route.
they did go the K route with it.
Down on his luck, sewage worker Howard North discovers he is part of a secret sect of magical demon hunters. Oh boy. Watch out now.
Yeah, he just gets dragged into the global conflict between the necromancers and Finnegan.
Evil demon named Finnegan.
Yep, that's it.
Which apparently is played by Monica Bellucci. Which that would not have been my guess.
No, well, not.
That is... This movie is full of surprises.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if she's doing somebody a favor with this one.
Wow.
Very strange.
Incredible.
Blu-ray this week. We got Alice, Sweet Alice from 1976 coming out on Arrow. Hopefully we'll have a review for this one up by the time this drops. I'm going to try to squeeze it in after we record. Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Surprised with that one. That was a surprisingly fun, decently made video game movie. One of the very, very few in existence.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good time. Batman Hush. This is an animated DC movie. Now, usually these are pretty solid. I checked out the trailer for this one. Looks pretty good. The Hush storyline in Batman is very, very good. One of the most famous ones. So I think I'll probably be giving this a look. The Curse of La Lorna. I did not hear good things about that.
No.
Gods and Monsters from 1998 getting a Blu-ray release. Tolkien from earlier this year. This is the biopic about J.R.R. Tolkien. The Reflecting Skin from 1990. Never heard of that movie.
Me either.
The Reflecting Skin. Charlie Says. That's the Mary Herron one that was not very good. Came out earlier this year. Tiger Milk from 2017. The Souvenir. Donnybrook. How Long Will I Love You? Plus One from earlier this year. That one I would recommend giving a look. I would say it's definitely worth a VOD rental on that one. It's surprisingly very funny.
Yeah.
Changeland, a movie called Do Something Jake. Just do something. God.
Would you? Fucking Jake.
And it looks like that's about... Oh, can't forget. Palms. Also coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like that's about it. What about Criterion's?
We have just the one, which is just a Blu-ray reissue, and that's Angel at My Table from 1990 from Jane Campion. This is like an autobiography of Janet Frame, famous New Zealand author. It's a good movie. It's got audio commentary 2005 from Campion. The woman that plays Janet Frame, Carrie Fox, and the cinematographer, Stuart Dryberg, short doc making of deleted scenes, and then an audio interview with Janet Frame herself.
Cool.
That's it. That's all for Criterions.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, take a look at the reviews section on your podcast platform of choice. We would always appreciate reviews. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.
To a land on God's list of shore.